Hello and welcome. Now I know it's already 2020, but I'm just taking a little pause on that to look back at the last year and all the things that have really added value to my life. Now that may be experiences, could be physical items, maybe some connections I've had with people, books I've read or movies I've watched. And yeah, just give you a little snippet of my last year and all the things that are kind of, I guess, my favorites or things that I really appreciate and want to show gratitude to. Now I really recommend that you do this as well, to just take stock of everything that's really brought you value, because when you pay attention to the things that really contribute to your life, it's easier to recognize them in like the future. If you're out shopping, you can really be more decisive with the things that you want to bring into your life, the things that you know will bring value. It's also the same when you're seeking out experiences, or maybe you're making connections to new people. And when you pay attention, you show gratitude to the things that do really contribute, do add value, that do really serve you in some way. It just gives you that extra lens filter to be able to be a bit more decisive and decide, oh wait, maybe this connection here isn't actually going to serve me, or it's more one-sided. So I'm not going to go into super depth with everything because obviously a lot of it is very personal, but I will touch on a few things. So yeah, let's just jump straight in. I'm going to start with experiences first. So I had 4 main experiences this year. One of them was solo traveling. The other was visiting the old community where I used to live. I finished a certificate, and also my dad went into hospital. So those are the 4 main experiences, and I just want to touch on a few things that I maybe learnt from each one of those experiences. So with the solo traveling, one thing that I really learned was that I don't like drinking, and it doesn't really serve me in any way, and I always just feel extra sensitive the next day. So since that trip, I've decided that I'm just not going to consume alcohol anymore, because yeah, it just doesn't suit me. And it's not that I can't handle my liquor, it's just not something that works for my body, I guess. It's just not something that I enjoy really, and I find it so valuable to be able to just let loose and let go without having a drink, but to actually just change your mindset and get into a more comfortable, relaxed space, because I think in social situations we're often very guarded. So that was one thing. Another was like making choices out of the right space. There was a few times where I made choices where I was just like, oh, let's just do it, let's just get it done, or like I'm just going to go here because I can't decide what else to do. And out of that sort of frustrated, like let's just get over it, rather than sort of like a centered, oh, is this the right choice, or is that really what I'm looking for, and sort of listening to that inner voice. Yeah, I made some choices that weren't very good. So that became very clear to me during my trip, that like listening to that inner voice is so important, and to be very centered when you do make choices. Another one is recognizing and like making exceptions for and working with my own sensitivities. So I would say that I'm probably more sensitive than the average person, and like people's energies in certain environments, it doesn't quite work for me. And to not just tell myself to get over it and like get on with things, because I think the world kind of has that expectation of people to like just get over your sensitivity, come on, like get on with life, no one else is worried about this. But to really just recognize it for myself and work with it in the way that works for me, and to not be ashamed, and to not like force myself to toughen up just because that's sort of like the society expectation. So those were some of the things I learned solo traveling. With visiting the old community where I used to live, I was really able to get some closure, and that was a really big aspect for me this year that came up in several different ways, but that was in one of the main ways, and how important closure is, and just like finishing something off and closing a chapter in the right way with sort of a good mindset of like, okay, I've done all that I can do here. And sort of going back, I was also able to accept some of the choices I made around leaving, because at the time I left in not the right way. So it's hard to get into this without getting very detailed, but I don't really want to do that. But yeah, I just was able to have like a really good moment of I made the right choice, and I got some really good closure, and I was just able to tie up loose ends with that. And I feel like that was a really important moment for me in this year. The other one that I had was finishing a certificate. So I left school maybe about 5 years ago. I have done lots of different study things, but I've never been able to quite finish something for whatever reason. And this year was the first time I was able to finish a cert for in disability support work at TAFE. Now that's not a very high qualification, it's like below a diploma even, and it's just sort of like a certificate of some kind, but it meant a lot to me. I have dyslexia, I've always really struggled with learning, writing things down, creating sentences and grammar and all that. And I've always had to rely on the support of my dad to be the one to go through and mark everything for me. But during my studies, he actually got very unwell. So I ended up having to take up that myself, and I was able to like finish my certificate, do all my placement hours, get everything in, also while my dad was in hospital. And yeah, I just learnt like a whole new level of self-reliance. I was also able to break down a lot of the barriers that I've created around my own disability. It can happen a lot of the time. Like, sure, I do have dyslexia. That's a real legitimate thing, and that does create some barriers, but also I create my own barriers around fear and rejection and like working with that disability, using it as a bit of a crutch sometimes. And I know that that can happen in so many different ways. If you maybe have a mental health condition, if you have anxiety, whatever it might be, is a lot of the time, yes, there is the true disability, the true issue in a sense, but then there is so much more that goes around it and your relationship to it that often is some of the main barriers. And I was really able to work with that and break that off, or break through that in some way. Another part of that was just being able to finish and accomplish something. I don't often follow through with things sometimes, and that was a really good moment to have that experience, and it sort of gave me the drive to be like, I can do this, I can finish things through, I can make these commitments and push myself. It is a possibility, and that was really important. Another thing that happened this year was my dad had a heart attack. He was admitted into hospital, and he was in for several months while we were waiting for him to have surgery. And Australia, it's a public health system, so whoever is the most severe case kind of goes first, and you kind of have to wait your spot on the list. And so yeah, he was in for several months. What happened in that time is I was able to quit work. Luckily enough, I had enough saved, so I just quit all my work and I was with him every single day, sitting there with him 8 to 12 hours, just waiting for the news from the doctors and things like that. And some of the things that were just so important about that time was just spending time with a loved one. It's not often that we can do that. It's not often that we make time for that. And it's not unless someone is really unwell that we do make that space. And I just found it so priceless and so important to be able to be there for him, to be able to be a caregiver after he had surgery. I was cooking for him every day and doing all the things that he needed. And it was just such an honorable role to be there for someone that you love, and realizing that ultimately those are the most important moments in life, is the connections and the people you have that you ultimately love. And you know, my father and my mother are kind of my core unit. I'm an only child, so my family doesn't extend too far. I do have cousins and I do have grandmas and uncles and things like that, but I would say they are my core people. And so we really were able to have that time together and just develop a deeper connection and just become closer in a way that if he hadn't had that, if he hadn't gone into hospital, I don't know if we would have been able to do that, or at least not for a little while longer. And so that was just such a beautiful moment, and I was so grateful for that. So those are all the experiences. Now let's jump into things that are a little bit more tangible. It's a little bit of an odd transition to go from sort of more emotional things to physical things, but we're gonna do it. So here are the main things that I have next to me. I'm just going to hold them up and just say, I love this. It's my water bottle. We have a special relationship and it brings me joy every single day because I usually take it with me to work. Organizational things have brought me a lot of joy this year. So these are some little pouches. I originally got them for my cash envelope system, but I stopped that and I have been still using them, but I use them to organize my different currencies. So this is my UK one. It also has my Oyster card in it, my bank card, and my UK driver's license. And then I have one for like Korea, I have euros, I also have my American one that has like my insurance card, American cash, also bank cards, and then I have one miscellaneous envelope, and I've just found that so useful to like keep everything organized. And when I was traveling, it was very easy because I would just take whatever was in here, whichever country I was going to, I'd put it in my wallet, and then I'd take whatever was in my wallet and put it back in there, and it was a very simple, organized system. While I have my wallet, I really loved this. I purchased it this year. I really think it's so important to have a wallet that you love. If you're trying to live a more simple life, have one that has way less card slots. That's very helpful. And yeah, having a space where you put your money and that you really like and you really like take care of helps to build a positive mindset, money mindset. So I really enjoy that. Another organization thing is this big folder. Now, if you want to be an adult, I really suggest that you do it because it will make you feel very adulty even if you are failing in every other area. But basically, it's a folder that has all my most important documents. I've lived in 3 different countries, so it's got Australia, UK, and America. So each one, it has my bank information for each country. It has like immigration documents. I also have my birth certificate in here. I have any certificate I have from when I finished a study program or credits and things like that. Has some important like manuals and some family photos, and I found that very useful this year. There's lots of bushfires going on in Australia. Luckily I haven't been very affected by that, but there was one burning about 14 k's away, and I knew that like if I needed to get out quick, I could just grab this. It would have everything that I really needed and get my cat and get out of there, because yeah, I don't know, it just brought me just made me feel secure this year and made me feel very organized. The next thing I have is my bullet journal. Now, I cannot talk more about bullet journaling and how much I love it. So I started in 2018. You can see that this is clearly the most used one, and this is a brand new one for 2020. But yeah, I find it so useful. I'm not a pretty bullet journaler. I'm such a messy bullet journaler. Well, I like to call myself a functional bullet journaler. So I literally write down every single item I spend money on, and then I highlight which ones are business expenses because I'm self-employed. I sometimes write little diary entries. I have like my weekly schedule where everything's color coordinated per like which client I'm going to see. Sometimes, you know, I went to a workshop this year, so I took some notes and I did sort of like drawings while I was in the lectures. Yeah, and then that's just like what a monthly spread maybe looks like for me. And yeah, it's just color coordinated and it keeps me so organized. I just write everything in here. Everything goes in this. And sometimes I do like habit trackers as well, but I would so recommend it to anyone because having your own system is so much better than a diary. And I just like put everything in here. Like everything you would want to write down just goes in here because there's space for anything you want to create. So there's that, my bullet journal, and then the supplies that helped me create my bullet journal. So I really love this pencil case because it was made by some of my friends who live in upstate New York. I actually helped thread the loom that this material was weaved on, and then my friend actually sewed it together. And then I just have my supplies in here. So I'm very grateful and happy about them because they just came with me everywhere this year and they make me very happy. Next thing, well, actually, before I jump onto a Kindle, I just want to mention one other thing. So I don't know, you probably have never noticed this, but basically I bite my nails like crazy. I have since I was really little, and this was the first year I finally was able to stop. And I think it's partly to do with these 2 specific items. One is like a strengthening nail polish, and the other is just like a nail file. So I just made sure to have these in all my different bags because anytime I had a little loose one, I'd always have the tendency to want to bite it. I hate when things aren't smooth. I have very sensitive fingers and I can always feel when there's something that's like a little bit lumpy. So having those around was really useful because it stopped me biting. And then this was just a really good strengthening coat so that my nails didn't bend and then crack and then fall off again. So that was very helpful in my nail stopping biting system. My Kindle, I've mentioned it before, I have a whole video on my Kindle, but I really love this, and this was the year that I properly took advantage of my Kindle. So I have, like I mentioned, I have dyslexia. I've always struggled with reading because of it, and I have this antipathy towards it. And I would say in my whole life I maybe completed 10 books until this year where I read 25 books. I was so excited with myself, and my Kindle was a big part of that and really served me in my reading love affair. I don't know how else to say that. So I'm going to mention a few different things. I'm just going to sort of like read them off. So I will put the book on the screen so you can see it because a lot of the books I read were ebooks. So this year the ones that I really enjoyed was What a Time to Be Alone. It was like a graphic novel type book with like different writing segments, and it was just so beautiful. It really touched me in a way that resonated with me at the moment because I'm really sort of addressing those questions around loneliness and self-value and how to have healthy relationships with people and not just always be a people pleaser. So I really enjoyed that book. Hopefully it's up here for you. I also read the series, the You series has become a TV show this year. So I read the first book, You, and then the second book, Hidden Bodies. I really enjoyed them. They're a bit gory and icky, and he's kind of a bit of a sexual deviant, but I did really enjoy both of those books. And I enjoyed the Still House Lake series as well, so I can link that for you. And then I also enjoyed a zine by Lena Norms, which I will put up for. I actually have it in my bookshelf. I don't know why haven't got it here to show you. So I really enjoyed thrillers. Thrillers were kind of the way that I continued to read and was able to read so much and just kept consuming books because I found them so like, I was just on the edge of my seat. I always wanted to know more, and that was really good. Some movies I really loved this year was Late Night that came out. I think I watched that like twice in the cinema. I thought it was really funny. I really enjoyed The Joker. Also watched that like 2 or 3 times in the cinema. Peanut Butter Falcon, wasn't able to see it in the cinema, but I did watch it online, and I really loved that movie. It was so sweet. And I watched Green Books probably like 4 or 5 times in the cinema as well. If you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of a cinema buff. I love when I find a movie that I really love, I'll literally just take every single person in my life to that movie. And those were 4 movies that I really did enjoy this year, especially Green Book and also Peanut Butter Falcon. They were like top ones. And then the TV show that I enjoyed was the You TV show, but I think that's because I read the books, and then, you know, I mean, it's a good TV show as it stands, but I was really cool to read the books and see how they changed it and what was different. And then obviously the best TV show in the whole entire world, I just consistently watched it. I think I watched it through all the seasons twice this year, was Friends. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please share with me, if you feel comfortable, in the comments any of the experiences or things you would like to talk about. I'm not going to talk about connections or go into depth with some things because I feel like that is my own personal life. I don't feel comfortable putting that online, but yeah, anything that you would like to share, favorites or things that really served you this year. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.